My name is Victoria. I'm 24 years old, going on 25, and I actually have a neurological disorder which causes me to have episodes of extreme pain that leads to vomiting and lethargic type behavior. Service dog is an animal, I see a dog, that a person with a disability will use to assist them in many sort of ways, whether it's a guide dog, whether it's a medical alert dog. It's there to service that person and their disability. My service dog is meant to alert anyone if I am somewhere that I might be in danger and I'm having one of my medical episodes and I might need, I might have fallen down somewhere that isn't safe, or I might need some sort of help. He can go find somebody for me. Also, if I am safe, then he can provide me with comfort and warmth. Warmth is something that does help me with getting over that discomfort from the episode, and it helps me feel better a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
He's an American Pit Bull, not very common, but he's 5.5 months. His name is Benissimo, Benny for short, and yeah, it's a very solid dude. I wish people knew when it comes to service dogs that everyone's going to do their training differently, and during training time, it's a very delicate period that you really have to get that sort of mindset through to the dog, and that includes not showing them eye contact in public from other people, because then they know that they can grab somebody else's attention and then their attention is lost off of what they're there for. So you should always respect somebody's way of training their animal as long as they're not harming them or neglecting them, or that dog itself isn't harming anybody else. You shouldn't really be worried about how somebody is training their animal, because you also don't know their condition and what it is that they need that dog for. So you just want to, unless it's an obvious that somebody's saying, hey, you can go ahead and pet him, just assume that you shouldn't show any sort of attention. Eye contact is like number one that people think, well, I'm not touching him, but I'm looking him in his face. Like, that's the same thing, and don't do it. Whenever you go anywhere in public with a service animal, anyone that's like a general manager or it's in charge, is allowed to ask you if your animal is a service and certified service animal. And that is it. They're not allowed to ask you what your condition is. They're not allowed to ask you for any proof of that. Their proof is in the trained ability of the dog and how it's behaving. If it's barking and if it's acting really erratic, then obviously it's not a trained service dog and they can ask you to leave. What a lot of people don't realize is that there's no like service dog school or service dog test. You literally just register online with them, and it's the assumption that you've done your due diligence in training the animal, because you will be responsible for him whenever he goes into public. And yeah, so no one is allowed to ask. Not even people of law enforcement are allowed to ask. It's the ADA law.
Yeah.
You would think that having a service dog makes it difficult to get in anywhere. The only thing I haven't tried yet is like an airport, and I just think that he needs to be a full adult for that one. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I've taken him to the grocery stores, I've taken him to restaurants with me. I've even taken him to a comedy show because it was an impromptu trip, and he ended up being with me. We saw Mr. Chow from The Hangover together and got to have a little discussion with him about it, why there was a service dog in the third row dressed up like a dragon. But he sat there very politely throughout the entire show and didn't cause any disturbances. So when you have people that see that, okay, this is what a trained service dog looks like, we shouldn't bother this person, then they are a lot more accepting and a lot more willing to help you. I mean, we even got through, I don't consider myself a completely disabled person, I'm just a person with a disability. But I mean, we got through VIP line with like the disability line, so it's cool. He's my VIP ticket, first class. When I have people over at my home, I let them know that he is a service dog initially, so that there's no roughhousing, there's no crazy kind of play, there's nothing that's going to provoke him to behave in a way that I wouldn't want him behaving regularly. But he is allowed to play. He doesn't have to be on his sharp toes to where he can't look at anyone or talk to anyone but like have any sort of, you can have nonverbal communication and stuff. But He still listens and everything, but he doesn't have to be at my side at every point. He doesn't have to sit next to me and throughout the entire time that people are there. He's allowed to roam around and be free within. Whenever he has his vest off, he's free. Like parks, backyards, he knows whenever the vest off, it's party time. So when it comes to having a service dog and their training, it doesn't consist of what people think is like hardcore military training. My service animal is very well loved because it needs to respect me and it needs to respect my commands. If it is an abused animal that is neglected and not loved and not treated well, then he's going to be a lot more reluctant to listen to your commands as you wish them to. So it's very important to know that service animals are not unloved. They are not neglected. They are not, severely punished. They are just very well trained. If I can get my dog to snap, sit down at the snap of my fingers and come to me, then that's showing his training and that's showing his respect for my training for him. Don't assume that just because he has to sit down next to me for 20 minutes doesn't mean that he's a bad dog. You don't look at a child in church and think that, he's being beat for having to sit still during a sermon. You think that, wow, that's a good kid. You have to look at dogs the same way. They're, again, extensions of their owners, just like children are extensions of their parents. It's the same standard, and you just should always make the assumption that if a dog is well behaved, it is also very well loved and cherished by its owners.